Hello and welcome to Edenwick. This video isn't really a tutorial or a lesson or anything like that. It's really just going to be like a sped up drawing video, like a speed paint. But I'm not painting, I'm just inking. And I didn't want to post it with just like music playing on top of it, because I didn't feel like that video would have been very, interesting to watch without any audio to go with it. Talking about like the thought process and all that junk. I myself naturally do not watch a lot of speed paints because if nothing's being said, I kinda don't pay attention to it and kinda just listen to the music without actually watching what's going on in the drawing. I'm freeballing the audio here, and a lot of this is gonna get edited out and or resaid. But I guess here we go. The illustration I'm working on is one of Batman. I had put a sketch process video of it up earlier, but didn't ink it. I was going to put both the sketching and the inking in the same video, but in order for me to do that, I would have had to speed it up like a lot, and it would have been going too fast to be interesting to watch for me. I was really afraid to ink this. It was going to be the first traditionally inked illustration I've done after recently getting the new materials and trying it out, and it was going to be the first full illustration I've made in a long time. Unfortunately though, I do not actually ink any of the background in this drawing, and even as I'm recording this audio right now, it's still not finished. I just after I finished the Batman, I was like, you know what, that's good enough, and I put it away for a bit, and maybe later I'll come back, but I'm worried about inking and messing up the background. It's probably not something I should worry about too much, but I'm just focusing on other things right now, It just be like that sometimes. And I guess right now I'm kind of debating on whether or not I should talk about the inking or the drawing process more. But I guess, I'll talk about it in order. And my mouth was away from the mic, but I hope that makes the audio interesting or something. So let's talk about the drawing. So the planning for this drawing actually came after I started working on another illustration. If you've been on my channel, I've been trying a lot of new stuff out, and I haven't really been keeping up with them as much as I want to, but Fan Art Fridays are a new thing that I'm doing, and will continue to do. And I don't know if I'm going to call this video Fan Art Friday Inking or whatever, I'm probably not, but I had sketched Batman and Deadpool, and I was like, you know what, it's time for me to do a full illustration now that I kinda know how to draw these characters. And the first character I did was I was working on a Deadpool illustration where he was walking in a forest. And the issue with that one, well, there's not really an issue with that one. I did like a good mock-up of it in my sketchbook that I really like, but it requires a lot of leaves and forest stuff in it. And I don't know how to draw leaves and forest stuff as I am currently, so I've been putting that one on the back burner. And I don't remember why I decided to just do Batman instead. But is there a but? That's the question. I don't know if there's a but. I just don't remember why I decided to do Batman instead, but I did. There goes the but. So I did Batman instead. I was trying to figure out what kind of pose I could put him in, a Batman-like pose. That would be good for a full illustration. In the past, illustrations have been, well, they still are pretty hard for me, but in the past, a big confusion for me of illustrations was how to fit the full body in the landscape format, like they do in like splash art and stuff like that. And I never really understood how to do it, and I can't explain why it was so complicated for me to do it. And it probably still is kind of complicated for me to do it. I don't know why. But I wanted to be able to do something like that for Batman. So what I did was, I was figuring out what kind of Batman pose he would be doing, something dynamic. And that was a bit hard, because dynamic posing is something I need to work on. But also, Batman is a character that isn't very, like, super expressive. So any dynamic pose you would put him in would be on the more complicated side. Like, I could do Superman flying, and it could be dynamic and simple at the same time. But with Batman, he's either doing like a grappling hook thing or he's fighting. And so I was really working the grappling hook angle when I was trying to figure out how to when I was thumbnailing for the illustration, and I couldn't get down the movement of how he would swing and what his legs would do. The legs were the problem. The legs are actually always the problem. I'm gonna say I'm pretty decent at torsos and arms, but legs are always coming in and ruining things. And that's what was gonna make this illustration hard. I ended up settling on an idea after thinking about story where Batman would be being chased or something by someone. And I don't know, I think I was gonna put Catwoman in the background chasing him, or someone with a gun shooting at him. And I wanted it to be like an action with like story. Actually, oh, okay, here it is. The initial idea was to have Spider-Man chasing him. I think I watched Across the Spider-Verse or something, and I wanted to have Spider-Man chasing him, and then I was going to do a counter illustration where Batman was chasing Spider-Man. And then throughout the thumbnailing process, I changed it to either I was going to do Nightwing or Catwoman, and I settled on Catwoman. But if you're looking at it, you can tell there's no Catwoman. There's nobody else in the illustration, and I couldn't figure out how to get them in the illustration in a reasonable area where it mattered. I would have to make them pretty big in the background, and then it's not as, I'm explaining it like there's a good reason why I didn't do it, but for the most part I gave up on the idea because I didn't know how to do it. And so I was like, you know what, let me change the story a little bit more. This is Gotham. Let me just have it be like I put a billboard in the background where a villain is taunting Batman and he's on some sort of time crunch. The villain is the Riddler. I can't say if it's gonna change by the time I finish the inking and stuff, but yeah. I also struggled a lot with the legs. Bent legs have been a huge issue for me, because figuring out how the thigh and the calves fold on each other and foreshorten is just it's complicated. It's a bit complicated. But like I said, legs are hard. They're difficult. Everything's difficult until you know how to do it. But right now, it's legs for me, so I'm figuring that out. This sort of feels like a rambly video, I'm not gonna lie. But you know what, I'm gonna try to keep it going. I'm gonna try to keep it on topic, and it's not gonna have any structure. It is a rambly video. I didn't write a script for it. I'm trying to get this done fast. And not fast because like I'm lazy, fast because I just don't have time currently. I put an inking traditionally video up earlier where I was learning to use the new inking tools that I got. I'd say maybe a week of practice before I was I wasn't confident enough to start working on this illustration. I would have honestly kept doing the practices, but I told myself that I just need to do it. I just need to get in there. So my priority wasn't to master the tools, but it was to stop smudging all over the pages, because a big issue I was having was smudging and dripping ink everywhere, learning how much ink could be held by each of the tools. And yeah, that's Discord in the background. Hopefully it's not being heard, but so I wanted to not do that. And actually in the illustration, I don't know if you can see it, I do smudge. I smudge one long line slightly because I rested my arm on it. And I'm not going to tell you where it is, but if you find it, put it in the comments below. That might be fun. That might be a fun little game to do. But yeah, if you can find that smudge, it's pretty obvious, but yeah, put it, well, I'm not going to say it's pretty obvious. That's kind of like a mean thing to say, because it might not be obvious to some people. It's obvious to me, of course, because I'm the one that smudged it. But yeah, if you find it, just put it in the comments below. It might not be that obvious, so we'll figure out how obvious it is once people start, posting. Once the one person posts it, they'll tell me if it's obvious. I hope I'm talking more about this drawing than I am about anything else. This is kind of ridiculous. And yeah, I think I'm gonna leave a lot of this random stuff in. Hopefully it gives like personality and a glimpse into who I am a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna pause right here so that I can go back and watch the speed paint to see what's going on and see if any thoughts come up. And yeah, give me a second. Yeah, it's been about a second, and I came back because it doesn't really matter. Like, if I tell you to wait, the time it takes for me to go look at this video and come back is going to be like so short on your screen, so it's not even really going to matter. But yeah, I'll be back again, and it's probably going to be like in a millisecond from now. Alright, so now back to the actual thing that we were discussing. The Batman drawing. And actually, I think I need to move this mic a bit, because it seems that when I talk on one side of it, it seems to be louder and pick up my voice more, but I'm trying to figure out which side that is. Now, the Batman drawing. This was not all done in one sitting. I'm surprised that the lighting remained the same pretty much throughout, I think. It took me a few days in a week, not like full days or anything, but like because I had work and other things to do. Plus, I was pretty slow with the inking, but it took it took like a week before I could just get the Batman actually done, and then I had to put it down for a bit before I put in the solid blacks. But it's a slow process, which isn't a bad thing. It being a slow process means that I can think about each line I put down and take my time, and that I'm not rushing. Because rushing is when you start to get the smudges and you start making the wrong lines and you start messing up. But as I sat there and I paused a lot and I looked at it a lot, and I would be doing nothing but looking at it and staring at it, and then I'd put down a line, and then you kind of get into a flow of thinking about what you're going to do next before you put down each line, and you'll start thinking several steps ahead before you finish. Before doing this traditional inking illustration, I kind of always thought that inking was the fast part at the end of the drawing, where you're just tracing over your work because you already did all the thinking and stuff at the end in the drawing phase. And in some cases that is possible, but it's also fair and better for me to look at inking as another drawing on top of the thinking that you already did, and you can still change things while you're inking. Currently, the way I'm doing it right now is there are several drawing phases. I have the rough red stage where it's all messy, then the give me a second, I'm thinking. Then the construction phase, where I'm putting form and stuff on top of that, and both of those are going to be in red, and sometimes even, well, for the most part, I'll add in like muscles and stuff and all that junk in the reds. And then the final pencils in the blacks will be the final, like the details and figuring out what lines I'm actually going to keep and use. And then even on top of that, I could put in the blacks and decide even more so what is more important, using line weights and stuff like that. And actually though, in this drawing, I only did two of the pencil phases. I did the rough reds, and then I did everything after that in the black pencils, all the details and stuff. And I did that mainly because I've been watching a lot of Proco and comic book inker and drawing stuff with like Ryan Benjamin and Mark Morales and all that stuff, and so I was like, this is how they're doing it, let me try it. And I don't think it came out too bad. It might have taken a while for me to put down the pencils and stuff. Definitely took way longer than it would be for them, but I'm learning, and I'm starting at a spot before I get better and become the artist that I want to be. Now another reason why the process is slow, and I think a lot is because you have to wait for the ink to dry in a lot of places. I'm using nibs, and even in the brushes, the ink will sit on top of the page before it sinks in and dries up, and that's where the smudges and stuff can come from. If you rub your hand across it or lay your hand on top of it, then you can create a smudge or a splat where you thought that your line was good, and you can change everything. Of course, you can go back and white it out, but it's definitely faster if you can just keep that in mind and try not to rush through it. And so you'll have to put down a line and then move across to the other side of the page where you can put down another line without messing up the lines you already did. And yeah, I was moving around a lot and being careful, turning the page and all that, so that I wouldn't mess up anything. Another thing that makes it a long process is the nib maintenance. Every few dips, well, first you have to dip the nib in the ink a lot to get the ink. You run out quite a bit depending on your line variety. Every time you put in a thick line, it's going to run out faster than if you're putting in a thin line. And so I would have to dip it a lot. Every few dips I would grab a napkin and I would rub off the ink and the slightly dry ink and the wet ink, and I would clean the nib before continuing. I wouldn't do like a complete clean. I'm not gonna like soap it down every 3 dips or so, but every now and then when I see it, getting a bit too black, I would get a napkin and I would wipe it off so that I can keep the nibs good for as long as possible, and so that the flow is good. Another thing, I've said this before, and I'm gonna say a lot of things I said before in this video, I believe. Actually, the video's almost done, but I use, when I'm drawing Batman, I use a lot of solid blacks, and that's, for me, that's cheating. To make it look more like Batman, it's easier to throw in solid blacks than it is to put in the details. And initially, I didn't come up with this idea by myself. I saw it in a lot of comic art that I was looking at when I first did the Batman studies, and I was like, oh, that's how you're supposed to do Batman. But this time when I was getting references for this illustration, I saw that a lot of people weren't doing that. So in the future, I'm gonna try not to. I'm gonna try not to just throw blacks on everything, because it does take away a lot of the detail that I would have wanted to put into it, and it hides things in the back and merges things together. And if it's not like an intense dark situation, then you don't want to go full on with the blacks, because then depending on the style, it can lose its effect in the long run. And one last thing that I kind of want to talk about is the background. And I don't know, I'm not going to be like, I know people are going to ask me about the background. I'm going to ask myself about the background, because backgrounds are extremely difficult. I was excited, not during the making of the background, but after I made the background. I was like, wow, that looks decent, it looks better than I thought I could make it. And I want to say I cheated, but I probably didn't cheat. I put a point in the middle of Batman's head. I scribbled a lot of lines to find the horizon based on the shapes that I had already put in the scene, and then I drew a grid on that, and then I kind of just put in more shapes using the grid so that I could fake buildings and stuff in perspective. And let me grab the picture right now so I can. Yeah, it's in perspective and junk, but if I were to move Batman from the image, I could make it work. No, I could make it work. I think it would look kind of bad, but no, I think I can make it work. But yeah, I don't like the idea of having to use a ruler all the time, and getting on there and being so mathematical and so perfect with every single line just because it's a building in perspective. For me, that's too much. It's boring. So I didn't do that. And so that does mean there are going to be things in there that are off. Some of the windows are off. I didn't use any perspective methods beyond the grid to draw some of these things in, and I eyeballed the sizes of things. I'd rather learn to eyeball the sizes of things, and yeah, I'm gonna in the future, as I get better at certain things and I have more time to focus on other things, I'm going to use all the fancy perspective methods. There's actually one in particular, it's not that fancy, but I don't know. It's when you like draw an X through the corner and through the center of your shape so that you can get the size of it down the line and all that junk. I'm gonna do that stuff because like it's just drawing the body took so long on this this illustration. So I want to be able to get faster at one part and get good at one part before moving on to the next stuff. Right now, a background that looks like a background is more than good enough. Okay, it's not more than good enough, but it's good enough, you know? If it looks like a background, then it's a background, and it's good enough for, you know, it's good enough for right now. And yeah, I think that's all for this video. I hope it was entertaining to listen to me ramble, and I don't know what my voice is going to sound like because I'm not using like a presentation voice. And I didn't plan any of the stuff that I said. I have no idea how organized it's going to be, but I know right now it's going up to 30 minutes of audio, and I'm going to have to edit out half of it. So, thank you for watching. What do I say at the end of my videos? I hope this video was helpful to at least one of you out there. If not, let us know in the comments what we can do better. If you know of other ways we can level up our art skills, let us know that as well. And while you're down there, I would love it if you would subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can see what I do next. Until we meet again, I would just like to say, welcome to Edenwick. I think I got that right. I hope I did. It's going to be embarrassing if I didn't.